Welcome, 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 beautiful souls. You might notice a little something in my video. Yes, I am dressed for bed, but the thing that happened was that I tried uploading part one of chapter three twice, and I tried to edit it and ended up deleting it. So, this is what you're getting me before bed, but consider it a bedtime story for you. So, we'll get into part one of chapter three of Becoming Supernatural. And this chapter is where everything begins to click. So we're stepping beyond understanding changes as a mental concept and into realizing that we can literally tune into new futures or new potentials and new realities in the quantum field. Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches that every possibility already exists energetically, so it's not about creating from nothing. It's about learning how to align with a future that already exists vibrationally. And it starts with where you place your attention, your awareness, and your energy. So let's today, as I begin reading part one, I invite you to listen not just with your mind, but with your imagination, and also picture yourself as the creator, tuning your consciousness like a radio dial to the frequency of the life that you desire. Let's dive in. So, tuning into new potentials. Here we go. Getting beyond our body, our environment, and time aren't easy, but it's worth it because once we disconnect from the three-dimensional reality, we enter a whole other reality called the quantum, the realm of infinite possibility. Describing this reality is a bit challenging because it's unlike anything we are familiar with in the physical universe. The rules of Newtonian physics, the way we're used to thinking the world works, simply don't apply. Hold on a second. Let me see if we are. Okay, give me a minute. Here we go. The quantum or unified field is an invisible field of energy and information, or you could say a field of intelligence or consciousness that exists beyond space and time. Nothing physical or material exists there. It's beyond anything you can perceive with your senses. This unified field of energy and information is what governs all the laws of nature. Scientists have been working to quantify this process so we can more fully understand it, and they are discovering more and more all the time. Based on my knowledge and experience, I believe there's a self organizing intelligence that is energy, and it's observing all of the universes and galaxies in order. Sometimes people will say to me that this idea seems a bit unrealistic. I always answer them with the same question: what happens after an explosion? Order or disorder? That's actually a good question. Their answer is always that disorder results. Then I ask, so why, after the Big Bang, which was the biggest explosion ever, has so much order been created? Some intelligence must be organizing its energy into matter, into matter form, and unifying all forces of nature to create such a masterpiece. That intelligence, that energy, is the quantum or the unified field. To give you an idea of what this field is like, imagine taking away all the people and bodies on Earth, all the animals and plants and physical objects, both natural and man made, all the continents, the oceans, and even the Earth itself. Imagine you could take away all the planets and moons and stars in our solar system, including our sun. And then imagine taking away all the other solar systems in our galaxy, and then all the galaxies in the universe. There's no air, that there isn't even any light that you can see with your eyes. There's just absolute blackness, the void, the 0 point field. It's important to remember this because when you, as a consciousness in the present moment, unfold into the unified field, you will be in an infinite black space, void of anything physical. Now, imagine that Not only do you not see anything here, but because you enter into this realm without a physical body, you also have no sight with which to see, nor do you have the capacity to hear, feel, smell, taste. You have no senses here at all. The only way you can exist in the quantum is as an awareness, or better said, the only way you can experience this realm is with your awareness, not your senses. And since consciousness is awareness, and awareness is paying attention and noticing once you are beyond the world of the senses, when you pay attention to the energy of the quantum field, your consciousness is connecting to greater levels of frequency and information. Yet, as strange as this may sound, the quantum field is not empty. It's an infinite field filled with frequency or energy, and all frequency carries information. So think of the quantum field as being filled with infinite amounts of energy vibrating beyond the physical world of matter and beyond our senses. Invisible waves of energy available for us to use in creation. What exactly can we create with all this energy swimming in an infinite sea of potentials? That's up to us because, in short, the quantum field is the state in which all possibilities exist. Heavy on the all. And just as I said, when we find ourselves in the quantum universe, we exist simply as an awareness or as consciousness, specifically an awareness that is paying attention to or observing a field of infinite possibilities existing within an even greater consciousness and a greater level of energy. As you enter in this endless, vast space as an awareness, there's no bodies, no people, no objects, no places, and no time. Instead, infinite unknown possibilities exist as energy. So, if you find yourself thinking about knowns in your life, you are back in the three-dimensional reality of space and time. But if you can stay in the blackness of the unknown for long enough, it will prepare you to create unknowns in your life. In a previous chapter, when I was instructing you to return to the present moment, I was referring to you stopping yourself from thinking about the predictable future or from remembering the familiar past and simply unfolding into this eternal vast space as an awareness. To no longer place your attention on anything or any one material in this three-dimensional reality, like your body, the people in your life, and the things you own, the places you go, and time itself. If you do that properly, you're nothing but awareness. That's how you get there. And I need you to understand that he's not saying you're not anybody or you're not important. What he's saying is, in order to get into this unified field, the void, you have to free yourself from all identification of what you think you know. And that includes your identity, things and everyone in your world, the meaning that you give any and everything. You just got to let it go. That's how you're going to be able to tune into something completely new. Okay. So now let's back it up a bit and look at how scientists came to discover the quantum universe, which happened when they began studying the subatomic world. They found that atoms, the building blocks of everything in the physical universe, are made up of a nucleus surrounded by a large field containing one or more electrons. This field is so large in comparison with other, I'm sorry, this field is so large in comparison with the tiny electrons that it appears to be 99.999999999% empty space. But just as you read, the space isn't actually empty. It's made up of a vast array of energetic frequencies that make up an invisible interconnected field of information. So everything in our known universe, although it may appear to be solid, it is actually 99.999999999% energy or information. In fact, most of the universe is made up of this empty space. Matter is I can't say this word. Matter is an infinite simile. I've never heard that word before. Small component in relation to the immense space of nothing physical. Researchers soon discovered that the electrons that move around in the vast field behave in a completely unpredictable manner. They don't appear to be subject to the same laws that govern matter in our larger universe. They're here in one moment and then gone in the next. and it's impossible to predict where and when the electrons will appear. That's because, as the researchers eventually discovered, the electrons exist simultaneously in an infinite number of possibilities or probabilities. It is only when the observer focuses his or her attention and looks from something material that the invisible field of energy and information collapses into a particle we know as an electron. That is called collapsing the wave function or a quantum event. But as soon as the observer looks away, no longer observing the electron and taking his or her mind off the subatomic matter, it disappears back into energy. In other words, that particle of physical matter, the electron, can exist until we observe it, give it our attention. And the moment we're no longer putting our attention on it, it turns back into energy, specifically energetic frequency, which scientists call a wave, and into possibility. In this way, mind and matter are related in the quantum. By the way, just as we, as the subjective consciousness, are observing the electrons into form, there's an objective universal consciousness that is constantly observing all of us and our 3D dimensional reality into order and form as well. In other words, we're the observer of our reality as consciousness, as individual, consciousness, or the infinite expressing itself in infinite ways. But then there's the infinite itself that's observing all of these aspects of itself, if that makes any sense. The all is watching the all. Yeah. So he says, so what that means for you is this. If you're viewing your life from the same level of mind every single day, anticipating a future based on your past, you are collapsing infinite fields of energy into the same patterns of information that you call life. So you're taking the infinite and you're keeping it basically the same of what you already know. For example, if you wake up and you think, where is my pain? Your familiar pain soon appears because you expected it to be there. Now, that is like, whoa, because I found myself doing that this morning. Like, I had some sensations that I've been feeling for a while, and I literally remember coming into consciousness. When you first wake up, I came into consciousness and I was just like scanning my body to see, is it there? And then boom, it was there. But from what he's saying is it shows up because I expect it to show up. Interesting. Imagine what would happen instead if you were able to take your attention off the physical world and the environment. As you learned in the last chapter, when you take your attention off your body, you become nobody and you no longer have access to or any use for the senses. When you take your attention off of the people in your life, you become no one. And so you no longer have an identity as a parent, a partner, a sibling, a friend, or even as a member of a profession, a religious group, a political party, or a nationality. You have no race, no gender, no sexual orientation, and no age. When you take your attention off objects and places in the physical environment, you are in no thing and nowhere. Finally, if you take your attention off linear time, which has a past and a future, you are in no time. You are in the present moment, in which all possibilities in the quantum field exist. Because you are no longer identifying with or connected to the physical world, you are no longer trying to affect matter with matter. You are beyond matter and beyond how your identity, I'm sorry, and you are beyond matter and beyond how you identify yourself as a body in space and time. In a very real sense, you are in the immense blackness of the unified field where nothing material exists. That's the direct effect of continuously laboring to get to the present moment that I described in the previous chapter. And he says laboring because, as I mention all the time, you have to develop a practice around this. It takes practice to condition your body to something different. And that practice means that you're not going to always be comfortable. It's not going to always feel like a good meditation. It's not going to always feel like you actually hit a goal, so to speak. Um, but that is the work. That's the universal work, the inner work. The moment that happens, you unfold your attention and energy into an unknown field beyond matter where all possibilities exist. A field made up of nothing, a field made up of nothing but invisible frequencies carrying information or consciousness. And just like the quantum scientists who took their attention off the electron only to find that it reverted to energy and possibility, if you were to take your attention off your life or get beyond the memory of your life should turn into possibility. After all, if you focus on the known, you get the known. If you focus on the unknown, you create possibility. The longer you can linger in the field of the infinite possibilities as an awareness, aware that you are aware in the endless black space, without putting your attention on your body, on things, or on people, places, and time, the longer you invest your energy into the unknown, the more you're going to create a new experience or new possibilities in your life. It's the law. Just like law of assumption, law of attraction, and all the other laws, this science is helping you to understand that there's a world that exists all around you, but you can only really experience what you're tuned into. And this is how, like, a parent could have multiple children and they all experience that same household very differently because it's based on what they're tuned into individually that they get to continue to experience. So I hope you guys found that helpful. That concludes part one of chapter three. And I hope that as you were listening, you started to feel just how powerful your attention truly is and how many new possibilities are already waiting for you to tune into them. I'll be back soon with part two, or you might have watched part two, depending on what time you're watching this. But we're going to dive even deeper into how your brain begins to physically change when you shift your focus towards new potentials. Stay open, stay aligned, and I'll see you in the next part.